there, chipmunks! Welcome to the AMP Cycling Ride Review Series. I'm your host, Angry Chipmunk, and today we're in Romania riding through the beautiful Bucegi Natural Park. This route is available on Rouvy, so let's get right to it. This is a moderate length route at just over 25 kilometers long with a moderate amount of elevation gain at 420 meters. The whole ride averages just 2% but will max out at a surprising 17%. Oddly, there are no Strava segments listed on Rouvy or Strava. There are 2 or 3 main climbs though. The climbing in the middle of the route can be broken up into several smaller hills or kind of looked at as one big hill. Some of the sections are pretty short, so I'll focus on more of the bigger hills here. But to start things off, we're riding downhill for about half the route. I would always suggest to pre-download your ride so you don't need to deal with any unexpected lag, and it's especially critical on routes like this one. The downhill is very fast. At the end of the downhill, it throws you into some nice mellow gradients for about a kilometer or so until the first climb. It's at the 13.6 kilometer mark, is only about 400 meters long with 50 meters of elevation gain. The gradient math tells us this crazy section averages 12.5% and peaks at the route max 17%. As soon as you come around the corner and hit the orange, it's straight into 10% plus. There are a couple of small reprieves where it backs off to 7 to 8%, but for the most part it's all above 10%. There is a small dip in the road just after the summit with another little pinch that maxes out at 9.5%. To the next climb, you'll be seeing a bit of varied ups and downs with sections all the way up to 10%. Use the terrain as much as possible here to help up those short climbs. And the second climb is at the 17 kilometer mark and is about 2.2 kilometers long with 155 meters of elevation gain. The gradient math tells us this one averages 7%. The steep bit of the climbing ends a bit before you actually stop climbing here, so it will seem steeper when riding it as the last bit is mellow by comparison. This one starts in a nice sort of 7 to 8% until hitting double digits in the first third. The middle section does ease back to a bit to 4 to 7% before again hitting 9 to 10%. When the dark orange ends, it scales right back to a quite manageable 5 to 6%. I don't think you can use much of the terrain to help up this one, so watch the map carefully to plan your gear shifts. There's a nice downhill cool down before the last climb with a solid dark green gradients for some of it. And the last major climbing starts at the 22.6 kilometer mark. It's about 1.6 kilometers long with 104 meters of elevation gain. The gradient math says it averages 6.5% with a peak of 12%. It's not overly steep to start with and seeing a lot of 4 to 6%. The second half sees those numbers jump to 9 to 11%. There are a few dips in this section here just before the steeper sections. They're great to use to help push up the next steep bit, so watch carefully for them. The summit still has a bit of climbing with a few small hills topping out around 9%. For this ride, you can get away with very minimal warm-up as the first 12 kilometers of it are all downhill. But with so many climbs near the end of the route, and especially since they're all in the second half, I would be giving a fairly decent cooldown. I would say 10 minutes of easy spinning at least. And as always, I recommend pre-fueling your ride and including plenty of protein with that. This route is a bit odd since it's half downhill, but that won't actually take you very long to complete, so it's still better to have the fuel on board before you start. If you need something for the climbs, I would go for a faster acting carb as there's not heaps of riding left to do, or have say 10 grams on the downhill. I think the second half of the route took me twice as long to complete as the first half did. But the view on this ride is phenomenal. It doesn't even look real. This could easily be a Bob Ross painting minus the almighty mountains. Everything is super clear, the colors are vibrant, there's tight enclosed roads, big rolling hills, and free roaming wildlife. There's a bit of traffic, but nothing too extreme, and it doesn't really ruin the overall feel of the ride. This was the second ride I had completed in the day, and I tried to push it up a bit. I finished it in just under 50 minutes on 100% difficulty emulation. With the ability to delete the warm-up but still needing a decent cooldown, I would suggest to budget anywhere from 40 to 90 minutes for it. It could be suitable for those with a moderate time restraint. I wouldn't suggest stopping and picking it up again though, simply because the second half is pretty much all climbing. This is a great one for a quick evening spin when you don't want to do something too difficult. Overall, this is a fantastic route that I would definitely recommend for the intermediate level rider and up. It's not a lot of climbing, but the short punchiness of the climbs can make them seem a bit more difficult than they really are. For this route, I give a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this one in the natural park, and it is exactly what you want from such a place. Really good open spaces to look around and see the landscape. Not too much in the way of traffic or other detractors. For the climbs, 2.5 out of 5, 3 out of 5, and 2.5 out of 5. The shorter of the climbs can be muscled up a bit easier than the longer one. It's not as steep, but the longer distance just makes it harder to push up quickly. Experienced climbers won't really need to pace their efforts too much on these. For the view, 5 out of 5. Absolutely stunning views. I love the variety of terrain that keeps things fresh for the entire ride, and personally, I love the free roaming animals. And overall, 5 out of 5. Definitely put this one in your ride queue. It is suitable as a standalone ride, or it can be paired with another moderate ride if you're aiming for distance or elevation goals. Well, that's it for this review, so thanks for watching, chipmunks. Let me know what you think of the beautiful Bucegi Natural Park route if you complete it. I'll leave you to finish the rest of the ride, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks for another review. Until then, ride on, chipmunks, ride on.